Our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. In today's top stories, Algeria called on the UN Security Council to act now to put an end to the crimes committed by the Israeli occupation against the Palestinian people in Gaza. The Palestinian resistance movement Hamas has announced that it had reached an agreement with U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff on a general framework for a ceasefire in Gaza. Delegations from Latin America, Europe and Africa are meeting in Buenos Aires, Argentina to participate in the second conference of the International Federation of Journalists and Media in solidarity with the Sahrawi cause. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Thamani. Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar bin Jama, called on the UN Security Council to act now to put an end to the crimes committed by the Zionist entity against the Palestinian people in Gaza. The details in this report by Masoud Sharfi.
During his speech at a meeting of the UN Security Council devoted to the situation in Palestine, Mr. bin Jama said that Algeria assumes its responsibilities and is determined to push the Council to act, stressing that the time for indecision is over.
The world must see these children, the Palestinian children, the children of Gaza, as its own children. For Warda, for Hala, for the thousands, for the 18,000 who never got a chance to say goodbye, we must act. Words of condemnation are no longer enough. We must act now. Since October the 7th, Israel, the occupying power, has killed more than 54,000 people. How many more must die before action is taken by the Security Council? How many orphans must roam the ruins of Gaza? How much more blood must be spilled before this council acknowledges that enough is enough? My country, Algeria, bears its responsibility and is determined to push the council to act. The time for indecision is over.
Bin Jama mentioned the case of the pediatrician Ala al-Najjar, who a few days ago lost her 9 children aged between 6 months and 12 years and who suffered the ordeal of having to identify their charred remains one after the other at a time when her husband was in a coma and her 10th son was seriously injured. Mr. bin Jama said the figures have lost their meaning, adding to the deaths of 18,000 children were not collateral.
Figures lost meaning. What is worth of saying 18,000 children dead? These are not only numbers. These are lives. These are dreams. These are voices, playtimes, lullabies. They were extinguished. They were the warmth of homes, the joy of classrooms. They were the pulse of neighborhood. The Israeli army killed them. They killed them deliberately in a mother's arms, in classrooms, in hospitals, in bread lines, under staircases, and in tents. Their deaths were not collateral. They were the consequences of a system that sees Palestinian lives as not human, as disposable.
Bin Jama also pointed out that the Palestinians, like all human beings, have the right to life, dignity and a homeland, stressing that the conflict must be resolved at its roots.
We must resolve this conflict as its roots. Not just a lasting peace can exist. Not just and lasting peace can exist without the realization of the Palestinian people's right to an independent state. As President Abdelmajid Tebboune stated, and I quote, "We must act decisively to end the ongoing historical injustice inflicted upon the Palestinian people. We must urgently revive the peace process, which is currently facing an unprecedented deadlock."
Bin Jama recalled that the General Assembly, the Security Council and the international community had promised the Palestinian people a sovereign state with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital.
During the meeting of the UN Security Council on the situation in Palestine, the ambassador of Palestine, Riyad Mansour, to the UN delivered an emotional speech calling the members of the Security Council to act and protect the children of Gaza who are massacred every day.
Since Israel broke the ceasefire in March, over 1,300 Palestinian children have been killed and around 4,000 have been injured. These are children. And still a war against barbarism. Dozens of children are dying of starvation. The images of mothers embracing their motionless bodies, caressing their hair, talking to them, apologizing to them, is unbearable. How could anyone tolerate this horror? Excuse me, Mr. President. I have grandchildren. I know what they mean to their families. And to see this situation of the Palestinians without us having hearts to do something is beyond the ability of any normal human being to tolerate. Flames and hunger are devouring Palestinian children. This is why we are so outraged as Palestinians everywhere. The 14 millions of us in the occupied territories, in the diaspora, in the refugee camps, in far places, all the way to California and in between. We love our children. We love our people. We don't want to see them going through this tragedy and this.
For her part, the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace process, Sigrid Kaag, since the resumption of hostilities in Gaza, the already horrific existence of civilians has only sunk into or further into the abyss. She added that the Middle East peace is at risk, calling for bold action.
The Middle East region is undergoing a seismic transformation, marked by volatility, but also by opportunity if seized and supported. Its people demand a future of justice, dignity, rights, and peace. There can, however, be no sustainable peace in the Middle East without a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. There are no shortcuts. The region's future will remain bound to its unresolved past unless bold political will and decisions break the cycle. The two-state solution is on life support. Reviving it requires collective action. Peace cannot be a transaction or a partial, temporary arrangement. It needs to be built on international consensus, legitimacy, moving it from managing the conflict to ending it.
At the meeting, the American doctor Firuz Sidwa, who volunteered twice in the Gaza Strip since the start of the ongoing genocide in Gaza, testified about the deliberate killing of Palestinian children by the Israeli soldiers.
I'm not here as a policymaker or a politician. I am a physician bearing witness to the deliberate destruction of a healthcare system, the targeting of my own colleagues, and the erasure of a people. In Gaza, I operated in hospitals without sterility, electricity, or anesthetics. Surgeries took place on crowded and filthy floors. Children died not because their injuries were unsurvivable, but because we lacked blood, antibiotics, and the most basic supplies that are readily available in any large hospital anywhere else in the world. The foundations of life in Gaza, family, health, and community, have been shattered. The medical system has not failed. It has been systematically dismantled through a sustained military campaign that has willfully violated international humanitarian law. Civilians are now dying not just from the constant airstrikes, but from acute malnutrition, sepsis, exposure, and despair. Between my two visits to Gaza, I witnessed a sharp decline in patients' health, driven not just by injury, but by worsening hunger and malnutrition that left their bodies weaker, their wounds slower to heal, and their survival far less certain.
Now on the ground, the death toll in the Gaza Strip has climbed to 54,249, the majority of them women and children, since the Zionist occupation launched its military offensive. The number of wounded has reached 123,492, with thousands still trapped under rubble as rescue efforts remain severely hampered by the ongoing bombardment. Over the past 24 hours, 67 more people were confirmed dead, including 3 bodies recovered from beneath the debris, and 184 others were injured. The figures do not include casualties in northern Gaza, where access to hospitals remains impossible due to heavy fighting. As you followed in our top stories, the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas has announced that it had reached an agreement with U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff on a general framework for a ceasefire in Gaza, which is under a savage Israeli aggression. According to a Hamas press release, this framework includes the release of 10 Zionist hostages and bodies in exchange for the release of an agreed number of Palestinian prisoners to be guaranteed by mediators. Hamas said it was awaiting a final response to the framework, adding that it was making considerable efforts to put an end to the brutal war in the Gaza Strip. The movement explained that the framework will ensure a permanent ceasefire, a complete withdrawal of the occupying forces from the Gaza Strip, the delivery of humanitarian aid, and the creation of a professional committee which will take control of the affairs of the Gaza Strip immediately following the announcement of the agreement. The UN Special Rapporteur on the Right of Food, Michael Fakhri, said that Israeli occupation has brought Gaza to the most dangerous stage of starvation and that the effects will last for generations. He emphasized that what is happening in the Gaza Strip constitutes genocide, starvation, a crime against humanity, and a gross violation of human rights. Fakhri added in a press statement today that what he has witnessed during the past months of war clearly reveals the occupation's plan for the Gaza Strip. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. Now back to Algeria. The president of the Committee of Foreign Affairs, International Cooperation and the Algerian Community Abroad at the Council of the Nation, Omar Dadi Adoun, has received the president of the Committee on Internal and Foreign Affairs of the Shura Council of the State of Qatar, Youssef bin Ali Al Khater, and the accompanying delegation. The details in this report.
On the occasion, both parties expressed satisfaction with the strong and historic brotherly relations between the two countries, which continue to develop in line with the sincere will of the leaders, President Abdelmajid Tebboune and Amir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, to advance towards a solid strategic partnership serving the best interests and aspirations of their peoples. Mr. Addoun emphasized strong Algerian-Qatari parliamentary coordination and Algeria's commitment to peace, non-interference and self-determination, highlighted Algeria's role in regional stability, support for Palestine, efforts to end the Gaza war, and promoted economic cooperation through Algeria's new investment incentives. For his part, Mr. Al Khater praised Algeria's support for Palestine and noted the shared views between both countries. He emphasized the goal of strengthening parliamentary cooperation and exploring broader collaboration to face global challenges. Earlier, Mr. Al Khater, who is on an official visit to Algeria until May 30th, was also received by the President of the National People's Assembly, APN, Mr. Brahim Boughali. During the meeting, Mr. Boughali praised Algeria and Qatar's strong political will to deepen friendly ties, highlighted close parliamentary cooperation, and committed to activating their legislative cooperation protocol. He also commended Qatar's support for Palestine and called for joint efforts to stop the violence. Mr. Al Khater, for his part, praised the strong Algeria-Qatar ties and called for more joint economic investments. He highlighted Algeria's support for just causes, especially Palestine, and described Algerians as symbols of resistance.
The Minister of Industry, Sifi Gharib, has received a high-level Qatari delegation led by Mr. Khaled Al Abidli, Chairman of the Board of Directors of Qatar Steel International, the main shareholder of the Qatar Steel Algeria project, to discuss ways to strengthen bilateral cooperation. The meeting, attended by the ministry officials, aimed to implement President Abdelmajid Tebboune's instructions to realize the agreement with Qatar's emir, focusing on industry and mining. Discussions centered on strengthening investment partnerships through projects like Qatar Steel Algeria and mining opportunities, emphasizing job creation and local value. Both sides reaffirmed their commitment to deepen cooperation and develop joint projects for an integrated, sustainable economy. Algeria has been elected member of the Executive Committee of the International Gas Union for the period 2025-28 at the 29th World Gas Congress held in Beijing, China. It was in this context that Mr. Jilali bin Mohammed, a member of the board of the Algerian Gas Industry Association, will represent Algeria as a member of the Union's Executive Committee, now under the Italian presidency. This election strengthens Algeria's presence in the world's pioneering international organizations and reaffirms its central role in securing gas supplies in the Euro-Mediterranean region. This body, at the heart of this organization's strategic management, oversees all the work of the International Gas Union's committees, guides the priorities for the next 3 years, and keeps abreast of major developments in the global gas sector. The Minister of State in charge of Energy, Mohammed Arqab, discussed on Thursday with the Turkish Minister of Industry and Technology, Mehmet Fatih Kasir, ways to strengthen cooperation relations, especially in the fields of hydrocarbons, petrochemicals and renewable energies. In a phone call he received from the Turkish minister, Mr. Arqab called for exploiting opportunities and strengthening cooperation in the fields of hydrocarbons and renewable energies, petrochemical industry, electricity transmission, development of joint projects in the mining sector, especially with regard to geological research, exploration, exploitation, and transformation of mineral materials. For his part, the Turkish minister stressed the importance of deepening consultation and expanding the partnership between the two sides in a number of fields, stressing Turkey's keenness to strengthen brotherly relations with Algeria, especially in the energy, mines, and new and renew energies sector, which is witnessing promising opportunities for joint investment. The 7th edition of the Algerian Products Fair in Nouakchott, Mauritania, has concluded with the participation of over 200 Algerian exhibitors. Masar Sharfi has more in this report.
Held from May 22nd to May 28th, the Algerian Products Fair in Nouakchott gathered officials from both Algeria and Mauritania. The Algerian ambassador to Mauritania, Amin Seed, praised the event's success, highlighting its role in boosting cooperation, including in education and research. He encouraged Mauritanians to use the Study in Algeria platform. Speeches emphasized strong cultural and commercial ties, recalling Algeria's past support to Mauritania, while Algerian economic representatives showcased the country's progress towards self-sufficiency. On the occasion, several representatives of Mauritanian authorities and institutions who contributed to the success of the fairs, as well as the Algerian ambassador, were honored. The results of the raffle held on the sideline of the event were also announced. The acting director of export support mechanisms at the Ministry of Foreign Trade, Al-Hawari Abdelatif, described the organization of this edition as very positive, noting that over 40 memorandums of understanding covering various sectors were signed in Nouakchott between Algerian and Mauritanian economic operators, aiming to strengthen the presence of Algerian products in the Mauritanian market.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. This is the English service. As you followed in our top stories, delegations from Latin America, Europe, and Africa are meeting in Buenos Aires, Argentina, to participate in the second conference of the International Federation of Journalists and Media in solidarity with the Sahrawi cause, following its first edition held in 2024 in the Sahrawi refugee camps. The conference aims to follow up on proposals outlined a year ago to strengthen communication efforts in support of the Sahrawi cause in the region. The closing ceremony of the conference, scheduled for tomorrow, Friday, will be held alongside commemorative events for the 52nd anniversary of the Polisario Front. Now, a cholera epidemic has claimed 70 lives just in 2 days in Sudan's capital at a time when Khartoum is experiencing a collapse in its medical services. In a press release, the Sudanese Ministry of Health recorded 942 new infections and 25 deaths for the day on Wednesday after 1,177 new cases and 45 deaths on Tuesday. On Tuesday, the Ministry of Health reported that Khartoum state accounted for 90% of new infections. The world is celebrating the International Day of United Nations Peacekeepers in tribute to their efforts to promote security and stability in conflict zones against a backdrop of increasing and profound changes facing traditional peacekeeping operations. Next is a program by Masoud Sharfi to mark the International Day of United Nations Peacekeepers.
Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. Today, May 29.